The grace and peace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you.
And also with you.
You know, we don't really know a whole lot about Jesus' childhood. In fact, the Gospels give us very little information, if just this, and a couple of other verses. Though there is a fairly large wealth of information that's been recently found in 1947 that's still not considered orthodox material. It's called the Essene group of people, the Nagaheem find, and so Gnosticism is kind of what is considered that material. But the Gospel of Thomas gives us a little bit of light on this baby, this child Jesus, and so I'm going to share two stories, and maybe a third, but it isn't in the Gospel lesson. This first is Jesus is sitting with, has anyone heard these stories in the Gospel of Thomas? Little Jesus is sitting with a little boy who's very distraught. I forget if one of his parents had died, he's grieving, and Jesus goes over to him and he gets out of a little mud puddle some mud, and he makes a little dove, and then the dove flies, the little mud dove flies around, and the little boy smiles, and then the dove disintegrates. And by the way, the dove disintegrating is my selective remembering of that, right? I don't remember what happens. And the second one is, his dad is a carpenter, and his dad cuts a piece of wood too short, and he is mad, angry, and the little boy Jesus walks over and touches the board, and it expands to the correct measurement. Finally, I'll share the third story. It doesn't put Jesus in the best of light, and some people. There's a bully boy picking on people, pushing people around, and you know how, I don't know if you've ever run into a bully. I've run into a few. They take your stuff, they push you down, they scrape your knee, they might hit you in the back of the head a couple times, and so he's picking on people, and he goes by Jesus, and he runs into Jesus' shoulder, and Jesus, frustrated, looks at him and says, "You will do that to no one anymore," and the boy drops dead down and dies. Sends, as the best light on that, sends the boy on to meet his father, God. The one story we do have in Scriptures is important in a couple of different senses, but I don't think as modernity's looked at it, we've focused on what's correct in a sense. We focused on the conversation and the anxiety of Jesus being lost. And I believe that the writer would have a totally different concept for us to grab a hold of. So I just want to look at that Luke text. Jesus, and this is the one place they say Jesus does what? Is disobedient. He stays behind. But I believe we can look at that, and that answers that question as well. As we would say, the text answers the question. Jesus is 12 years old, and what's nice about this text, we get it twice, that every year his parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of Passover, and then as they describe him at 10 years old, he goes to the festival as usual. I think what's important here is that Jesus is raised as a Jewish person. His family followed Jewish traditions. He was raised that way. He was a church-going boy, even from Nazareth. They made that journey, which would have been about 4 to 5 day journey. So imagine you're going 4 to 5 days to go to church. Now, luckily they did this particular festival once a year, but they went on other journeys in other places if they were good Jewish people. And from the text, it says that they were. At 12 years old, it seemed at very first, it's a significant number because he must be almost to bar mitzvah. But I'm going to say that that's not necessarily that. It is more of a symbolism of Judaism. It's 12, the 12 tribes of Israel. It's the concept of 12. He is a perfect number of age. He is not an adult yet, and we'll know in a moment because he's called a boy, right? The boy Jesus stays in Jerusalem, so he's not an adult yet. He's under his parents' tutelage. And now the question becomes, who is his parents? Now, what good parent travels a day away from somewhere without checking in with their children, right? You could say that. But it's not uncommon when you have a group of maybe 200, 300 people traveling together, maybe as many as 1,000, you would just not think of it. You know, Jesus knows it's time to go because they always went and he's always come home. Because it's something they usually do. A day later, they find out he's missing, and I love it. They go back to Jerusalem and look in great anxiety. I lost my child once, my teenage son, for 3 hours. And when I found him, I wanted to kill him, by the way. No, because he had left on his own volition and went to do stuff. And those 3 hours were anxiety-ridden. And the key word here is 3 days. Again, imagine looking for 3 days. And I believe the concept isn't so much 3 days as it is a perfect number, right? A specific time. 3 days later. How many days did Jesus stay in the tomb? On the third day, right? This third is a significant number because it's symbolism, the resurrection. They were dead to him, and 3 days later they found him, and he was alive to them again. And now the part that I think many people focus on is this interaction. And we don't even know if it's a, what are you doing? Or, what are you doing? Or, we don't know those inflictions, but we get this, why did you do this to me? Mary says, right? Caused me all this distress. Why are you not with your parents? And Jesus answers this. Why are you searching for me? Didn't you know I am to be in my Father's house? And what was he doing there? Specifically, listening and asking questions. Not preaching, not up, but asking questions. They were amazed at probably his questions and his understanding of the Torah and the law. As he there then asked them questions, the people around him were amazed at his understanding. Now, when they believe, it's key. After that, he was obedient to them. Jesus is not, quote unquote, disobedient his parents. He's following his Father in heaven. And the most important part in this is that in the very final words, and he grew, Jesus increased in wisdom and in years and in divine and human favor. Those last words are what we are to grab a hold of and say, what? This is God in human form. This is a human baby in godness. And that changes our lives. It transforms who we are first. We're not about burning altars, sacrifices to get to heaven. Jesus has paid that price. It transforms who we are. The Spirit comes to us in baptism. We had a baptism. Oops, watch that. Right? Baptism. It transforms us, and who then are we to be? And Colossians basically helps us see who we are and who aren't to be. We missed the beginning part of this. Right? Verse 1, 2, and 3 talk about God loving us on so much, he dies on the cross. This happens because of him. And then, don't do these things. And the don't is this. Don't get angry. Don't have malice. Don't slander. Don't use abusive language. And finally, do not lie to one another. So that's what we're not to do. Don't be angry. Don't be malice. Don't slander. Don't tell stories of untruth about others. Don't use abusive language, and don't lie. And then the do's. What are we to do? Well, you get them in your text. We're to be compassionate. We're to be kind. We're to have humility. We're going to have meekness. And the meekness isn't something that you just cower away. Meekness is the sense that you have an understanding that you're not always right. You have an understanding that you're not always right. So you're open to hearing what other people people say and take it in your worldviews. We're to be patient. And then we're to bear with one another. That's the first 5. That concept transforms who we are. It certainly doesn't go with the world. The world is much more of the don'ts. So as we struggle in the world every day, as we live in that time, baby Jesus has been born. The salvation has come to us. Now is the kingdom of God, but not yet, because Advent wreath is still here. We're still waiting for the kingdom of God to be completed. We live with kindness and meekness and humility, bearing each other with love, right? If you've been married, you bear each other, right? You bear each other. This concept that you're not always right, that you say to the other person, yeah, I love you. And you do it their way. And when they're sorry, you feel for them, you hold them, you hug them, right? That bearing with each other means in the good times and the bad, with love. And it does mean that we do see each other. When you see someone who's angry, someone who's beating up someone verbally, abusively, the text says, go over there, give them a hug and say, I love you, but you don't seem to be loving other people. And you use kindness and love to bring people back who aren't kind and love, especially here in this community. And then finally, we forgive each other. A tough one. We don't forgive each other because it's been made right. We forgive each other because we've been forgiven. And so I love the text. We must forgive. This is transforming power. And you could say, no way, God can't do it. But then we finally get our final text. It's the Samuel story. Who knows Samuel's story? Yeah, Samuel's left out in so many places. Samuel is a miracle birth. Hannah cannot have a baby. She's barren. By the way, this is the good old days, guys. He has 2 wives, right? And the one wife, I wrote it down here, Pelinnah, she can get pregnant. And so every time she gets pregnant, she goes over to Hannah and says, ha, 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 ha. Look what I have. Look what I have. And Hannah is dedicated to God. And she says, God, if you give me a child, I will give you the child to you. And God does. God transforms her womb and she becomes pregnant and she bears Samuel. And even more transforming is she gives her son to Eli, the corrupt priest system. That's a whole other story. In fact, this story of Samuel is about transition from the priest to the kings. And I think that's what we want to take today, a transition time. Samuel brings in a more loving, kind, compassionate when Eli, the priest, is corrupt. What we get here in today's text is telling us that he is a priest. Samuel was ministering to the Lord, and he was wearing a linen ephod, and that is a priest's robe, like my all. It signifies that's what he is. And his mother went every year, and dad too, by the way, went every year to see him with a brand new robe. Much like Christmas presents, right? Brings him a new robe. And he wears that new robe every year. This time of transition from priest to king is transformed by God. It's a new year for us. Can you believe 2019 is almost here? I still remember 2010. It's a new time. We are in a transition. I am here because of it. Today's text says to us, in the year 2000, as we first come to a new identity, that's what Samuel does for Israel. Moves them from one leader to another, a new identity. How are we going to do this? How are we going to be compassionate to each other and Dallas Town? How are we going to be kind to one another and the surrounding community? How are we going to be humility? I never pray humility, but I guess I'm going to do it today. Bad things happen because usually I end up being humble. Humble is a spot where you say, I'm not right again, that I'm sorry, that we find our place in a place of repentance. I'm going to do something different. How are we going to do that? We're going to be meek, which means listen to each other. Where do you believe God is calling us? And listen and adapt that into us, because we don't have all the answers. At least I don't. How are we going to be patient with each other? In this time, there'll be some nudging, some holding, some crying, some laughing. How are we going to be patient with each other? And then finally, the real hard one, it is for me, how are we going to forgive each other? How do the wrongs that we've done, and you could say, I've done no wrong, but then I'm going to say, oh boy, go look in the mirror and ask yourself that question. Right? I have failed to be kind to everybody. I have failed to forgive people. I've held grudges. It's God who reminds me that, you know what? I forgive you in spite of your wrongness, that we do that to each other. And that's the challenge in this next year. Really be clothed with God's love. And that's really, I think he says, the most important thing. Be clothed in God's love. And I'm going to, one last thing. I don't know if I've used the lenses of love yet here in the sermon. Have I used the lenses of love yet? Well, it's a new thing today. Merry Christmas. This concept. Who has glasses? I see a lot. See, glasses change the way we look. Take your glasses off. A challenge. I know some of you are going to say, I can't do it. But take them off for a second. They change the way you see things. Now put them back on. See, they clarify for you. So this lenses of love, when you have something in your life, you put it on this concept. God loves me, and I am to love others. And then, whatever it is, respond out of love. So as 2019 comes, praise God, because God, what? A little baby who dies on the cross, gives us newness and wholeness, and now is with us in this transition. Amen?
Amen.
Let's silently contemplate the words we've heard and read today.